Hi friends, I'm Frank from Home Buy Me, the platform that enables the next generation home buying experience, purchasing real estate yourself without a buyer's agent, saving tens of thousands of dollars on real estate commissions. In our last video, we talked about some big changes in the real estate industry that have created an opportunity for buyers who want to manage their real estate purchases themselves. To help you make an informed choice between buying a home yourself or hiring a real estate agent, we want to help you understand the basic process of buying a home. That's the goal of this video. Here's what we'll cover in the next few minutes. Why buy a home without an agent? How should I get started? Viewing homes without a buyer's agent. Making an offer when you found the house you want to buy. Essential steps between making the offer and closing the transaction. Pro tips on how to go beyond the basics of price and time in market to find a great home for you. Why would anyone buy a home without an agent? Well, the most compelling reason to buy a home yourself is savings. Tens of thousands of dollars in commissions that you can use in a number of different ways. If there's no buyer's agent to compensate, the buyer can make their offer more attractive by upping the price. Apply those funds to a remodel or buy down their interest rate. You name it, the possibilities are endless. There's so much you can do with an extra 3% of the purchase price. In our first video, we went through the simple math of how commissions have traditionally been calculated in a real estate transaction with the example of purchasing a $1 million home. And it's worth circling back to this to show what's possible. In a transaction for a $1 million home with a traditional 6% commission, $30,000 goes to the seller's agent and $30,000 goes to the buyer's agent. If you're buying the home without an agent, then that $30,000 is back in play. It's a huge win. In addition to the monetary savings, you also get to control the transaction yourself. You'll be able to deal directly with the seller's agent and move the purchase through to closure without relying on an expensive third party. If you want to buy yourself, you're probably asking, how do I get started? Well, there's some foundational work that you may already be doing, as well as some concrete steps that you're going to need to take to be ready to take action when you find a home that you love. First, determine your budget and learn about mortgages and pre-approvals. It is essential to understand what your budget is so that your search is realistic. There are excellent online resources that will help you to understand how much money you can afford, including calculators from sites like bankrate.com and nerdwallet.com. These consider factors like income and down payment and provide you with a good idea of your budget. Next, you're going to want to learn about mortgages and pre-approvals. This is another area where online resources from big national lenders like rocketmortgage.com or from local banks will come in handy. You can get an idea of interest rate trends and how this will affect your purchasing power. Doing some of this research ahead of time will help you be ready when you start shopping. You've got to begin by choosing the areas that you'll target in your search. Once you have a basic understanding of your budget, you can start to determine what specific areas or even neighborhoods that are going to be in your price range. Start looking at listings in your target area as well as recent sales. You'll probably already looked at houses online or been to open houses in areas where you're interested in buying. While it's fun to browse properties online, it's also a really important part of your prep. It will help you get a feel for the market, for how quickly homes tend to sell, and how far your budget is going to stretch in specific neighborhoods. There are plenty of excellent online tools we recommend. Homes.com is a great listing site because they provide comprehensive information on the home, make the selling agent easy to find, and have excellent home valuation reports. When you're ready to go from casually browsing houses to a serious hunt for your next home, there are several important actions that you're going to need to take. First, avoid signing a buyer's agency contract. Under new real estate rules, agents will require that you sign an agreement with them prior to looking at homes, which will effectively lock you into working with them. If you're considering buying the home yourself, it's important that you do not sign a buyer's agency agreement. And equally important, do not let anyone tell you that it's required. Another key task is to secure a pre-approval from a lender if you're financing the purchase, or obtain proof of funds if you plan to pay for it in cash. This shows that you're a serious buyer and not casually browsing. It also ensures that you're shopping with a real budget. As far as viewing homes, there are a few good ways to start actually looking at what's for sale. Open houses are a great way to see properties with no obligation. To schedule viewings of homes that you're interested in, reach out directly to the seller's agent. Again, a site like homes.com that displays the listing agent's name and contact information as part of the home details will be an important tool during your search. Do not let the seller's agent convince you that you need your own agent to see the property. Showing the home is part of their job as an agent for the seller of the home. I wanted to pause briefly and give you a couple of pro tips at this point in the video. Pro tip 1, be wary of scheduling showings through sites like Zillow, Trulia, and Redfin. These sites are very often selling your information as a lead to buyer's agents. Pro tip 2, don't just visit the home once on a weekend or during an open house. To get a better sense of what living there is going to be like, go at various times on a weekday and get a sense of noise for traffic and the general vibe of the neighborhood. Okay, you found a house and you're ready to make an offer. Making an offer on a home is an exciting step, and understanding both the process and the individual elements of an offer will set you up for success. While a competitive offer price is critical, there are other components that will help communicate to the seller that you are ready and able to see the transaction through to closing. Your offer is going to include the following. Offer price. This is the price you're going to pay for the home. We'll have another video on this specifically in the future, but the goal is to find the amount at which you can win the house without overpaying. You'll also want to make sure that you're staying within your budget. A pre-approval letter from your lender. If you're financing the home, you'll need this or a proof of funds if it's a cash transaction. It is necessary to show the seller that you can purchase the home for the price you're offering. Earnest money deposit. This is a deposit made by the buyer to demonstrate their commitment to the purchase. It is typically between 1 and 3% of the purchase price, though in highly competitive markets this can vary. Escalation clause. If there are competing offers, are you willing to increase your offer? With an escalation clause, the buyer agrees to increase their offer by a predetermined amount above a competing offer, up to the limit that you set. Contingencies. There are conditions that must be met for the sale to move forward. They give the buyer and sometimes the seller the right to back out of the transaction if they're not met. Minimizing contingencies can be seen as a way of making your offer more competitive, but there are some critical situations to consider. Here are some common contingencies to consider, and the Home Buy Me platform will walk you through the others. Financing. This ensures that the buyer can obtain financing. If the buyer is unable to secure a mortgage, they can back out of the deal this way. Home inspection. This allows the buyer to have the property inspected prior to the sale. If there are significant issues, the buyer can request repairs, renegotiate the price, or cancel the sale entirely. Appraisal. This contingency protects the buyer in the case where the property appraises for less than the purchase price. If the appraisal is lower than expected, the buyer can make up the difference in cash, renegotiate, or terminate the sale. Insurance. This protects the buyer by ensuring that they can secure homeowner's insurance at a reasonable rate and with an acceptable level of coverage. This is especially important in areas that are prone to natural disasters like wildfires or flooding, where insurers may have increased premiums or even decided to limit or eliminate coverage in high-risk areas. Closing date. This can be an area where you might be able to accommodate the needs of the seller, whether they're looking for a quick closing or some specific timeline to accommodate their move out of their existing home. A personal letter. This is completely optional, but some buyers decide to add a personal letter to make their offer stand out. It gives the buyer the opportunity to try and make a connection with the seller or to explain any unique aspects or circumstances of the offer, including willingness to accommodate the seller's needs on the closing date or anything else. Sound like a lot? It is, but it also is important to note that while your offer may not address every possible scenario or contingency, all of these are addressed by the Home Buy Me platform as you build out your offer. When you're using Home Buy Me, your offer will also be reviewed by a licensed real estate attorney barred in your state prior to submission, providing an additional measure of confidence to you and to the seller. Once all of this is assembled and reviewed, the offer is submitted to the seller's agent, who then presents it to the seller. Are you ready for another pro tip? Talk to the seller's agent and find out what is important to the person selling the home. Is it getting the highest possible selling price? Is it closing the sale quickly or working out an arrangement that will allow them to stay in the home until a certain date? It could be all the above. Now let's talk about the steps between the offer and closing. If the seller makes a counteroffer, you will either negotiate an update to your original offer or decline the counteroffer and resume your search for another home. If the offer is accepted, you'll commence working directly with a seller's agent, title and escrow, home inspector, and your lender on the remainder of the transaction. There are articles on homebuyme.com that go into more detail on many of these steps, but I want to go through all of them at a really high level. Okay, on to the exciting part. Let's close this transaction. You're going to need to do the following. Sign the purchase contract with the agreed upon terms. Mutual acceptance is required to bind the transaction. Pay close attention to all contingency dates and ensure that you're comfortable releasing them as the dates become due. You're going to have a lot of work to do here, so make sure you pay attention. Transfer earnest money to escrow. Shortly after the offer is accepted, the title and escrow company specified in the purchase agreement will make contact with you to explain where and how funds can be transferred. Obtain a preliminary title report and title insurance from the seller or from their agent. Make sure to schedule a home inspection. Following that inspection, you'll need to determine if there's any work that has to be done on the home prior to you taking possession. Work with your lender to finalize your mortgage application and then set up a home appraisal. Secure homeowner's insurance for the property. This is a big one. Conduct a final walkthrough with the seller's agent. This should happen just before the closing date to ensure that any work required by the contract is finished and the home is in the expected condition. Closing. You're going to sign that final paperwork either at home or in a title and escrow office. This is sometimes done the day before you take possession of the home. Does this all sound daunting to you? Well, that's just what agents would like you to feel and believe. It is true, there are a number of critical steps that need to happen within a relatively brief period of time. But with the right tools and some organization, you will absolutely be able to manage this process on your own and save tens of thousands of dollars in the process. And remember, when you're working with Home Buy Me, our Smart Buy team will have your back with licensed real estate attorneys and real estate professionals. Okay, friends, thanks for sticking with me. Are you feeling ready to buy a home without an agent and save all that money? Well, let's recap what we went through today. We talked about the benefits of buying a home without an agent, huge savings for you, and control of the transaction. We reviewed how to get started and to set yourself up for success. We reviewed the steps to take once you're ready to start shopping for your next home, including mortgage pre-approval and how to see properties without a buyer's agent. We went through the essentials of creating an offer. Finally, we walked through the critical steps between offer acceptance and the closing of the sale. Our goal in these videos is to guide you in making the best decision when buying your first, your next, or your last home.